Ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What's going on, everybody, and welcome. My name is Steven Risotto. I cover the San Francisco Giants for SFA, and I'm the host of RizzoCast, a podcast that features current and big league players, coaches, fans, media, and others who are regarded as some of the brightest minds around the game of baseball. We're coming to you live from the podcast studio inside the newsroom of Golden Gate Express, the student-run newspaper at San Francisco State University. Today's guest is Tucker Ward, a certified MLB PA agent and a former Arizona Diamondbacks minor league right-handed pitcher. You may recognize the last name. Tucker is the son of 12-year MLB veteran and current big league hitting coach Turner Ward. We have an awesome conversation touching on the MLB postseason, Arizona Fall League, his playing career, making the transition to becoming an agent, advising collegiate and professional players, the day-to-day operations of the job, building a clientele, representing Bryce Eldridge, and so much more. This is episode number 152, and let's get started. All right, we are back on RizzoCast, and we are pleased to be joined by Tucker Ward, and Tucker is nice enough to join the show. Tucker, how's it going? Welcome.
Good, Steven. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And, I guess before we get started, I have to bring up the MLB postseason that's going on. How much of the postseason is kind of locked into your schedule? How much are you locked into these matchups and kind of what's going on around the league at this point in October?
Well, that's a two-folded question, right? Like, one, just being a baseball guy, loving the sport, having passion for the game, being in it my whole life, always watching all the games. It's kind of it's October baseball, best time of the year, right? And then, from an agent perspective, obviously always watching as well. Always watching the guys. Unfortunately, I don't have any guys in the playoffs this year. Hopefully next year that'll change. I'm sure it will. But always just being a fan is a person and an agent, just watching all of them. My dad's a big league coach. So he played for 16 years. So we've always just been baseball people. So playoff time, we're always watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's your job to, keep up with the status of baseball and everything that's going on. And,
Yep.
I know a lot of your involvement is in the minor leagues, maybe the collegiate level, possibly. But are you still kind of ingrained during the course of like a 162 game season? Because it's a grind, and baseball, unlike any of the other sports, like football, we see it every Sunday, right? For a handful of weeks. Basketball, there's days off. Baseball, it's 162 games with some days off here and there. It's a long season. Are you able to kind of like pick and choose the games you watch? Do you take some breaks? It's different from obviously when you were a player. So how do you go about kind of watching throughout the entire regular season?
Yeah. Well, so there's for even as agents, there's home games and away games, right? My home games is when I'm at home and I got the MLB app on my TV. Then I got the MILB app on the computer or iPad, whatever it is, box scores loading. And then away games for me is when I actually go and watch the games in person. So yeah, 162, it is a long season. It's I've got the easy job, right? It's hard for the players. 162 as a player, that's a grind. They're having to 162 plus the spring training for a month and a half before, then playoffs. Some guys go and play winter ball. So those are the guys grinding. It's the dream job when during the season you're really just getting to watch games and check in on guys and see how they're doing. And they have a good game, you get to talk to them after, congratulate them. They have a bad game, you got to deal with that side of life and tell them hey, you had a bad one, but good thing we play 162. Like we got a new series coming up, new game, new outing, whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, you signed up for it.
Yeah,
for the long haul. And I want to ask pitch clock. This was the first season of the pitch clock. It's the first time we've seen it in the postseason. Have you had any, I guess it's been in the minor leagues for a few years now. Have you had any feedback on kind of how that's gone and from your players, anybody you represent, anybody you're familiar with? And how has this gone, I guess, the first year of it in the big leagues?
I think most players are for it, right? Like, this is a this is a game of change and adapting anyway. You gotta, as you move up the minor league levels, get to the big leagues, go through the draft, you're always adapting to a different level of competition. And so with baseball, guys by nature have to be able to adapt to survive in this game. So I think the pitch clock, a lot of guys just adapted to it. I think a lot like it. The only time I hear guys complain about the pitch clock is the night after they pitch and they got a violation for it. Right. So that's really the only time they don't, and I don't blame them. Right. So they're frustrated and, oh man, this thing's stupid or whatever. Right. But for majority, 90% of the time, guys are pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no, I kind of get that sense too. How would Tucker Ward do with the pitch clock on the mound? I mean, let's hear it. Would you deal with it fine? Were you a guy that took some time in between pitches? Tell me about how maybe you would have gone about that.
Man, I was more of a fast worker, right? I like to get it and go. So I think I would have been fine with it. I really do, especially being a reliever. Like, as I was always out of the stretch anyway, not really ever out of the wind up. So I think old me probably I'd have been like a lot of my players. I would have been happy with it until I got called for it, and then I would have thought it was dumb. So that's definitely how I would have handled it.
Yeah, I guess the interesting thing to me is that more guys don't get dinged when they're running in from the bullpen, because when you're running in and you take too much time with your warm-up pitches, you get dinged with the an automatic ball or something. So I mean, might as well take the bullpen card. So
for sure,
we'll see how that evolves. Who do you have winning the World Series? Does anybody stand out?
Man, hard to root against Atlanta with what they're doing.
Very hard.
I mean, the double play to end it the other night was incredible. It's just always something, So that's my pick.
Yeah, no, it's hard to bet against the Braves. They have a lineup that is historically good. Their pitching's pretty good too. So I think I'm going to be right there with you. You mentioned just now before we got on here that you were in Arizona for a little bit, a few days to watch some action in the Arizona Fall League. What's the vibe down there? Because, a lot of people's attention are in the postseason and they're not really focused on what's going on with the Fall League and the future of baseball. I know I have to remind myself that it's going on and check in on what, Giants prospects are doing. So what's that kind of like for you trying to, head down there, experience the Arizona Fall League?
Yeah, man. It's something as an agent I go to every year. I always look forward to it. This year, I had 5 guys out in the Fall League, so I went to go see all them and, check in and stuff like that. And it's an exciting time for them because when you go to the Fall League, you did something that impressed your organization and they're wanting to send you against some, the other minor league prospects to see, how you're standing up against them. One stat I actually learned this year at the Fall League, and don't quote me on it, but I want to say it was like 65% of the guys in the Fall League last year made their debut the following year.
Wow.
So that's pretty good numbers. That's over half the guys making a debut the following year, that's impressive. That's impressive. I didn't find that data myself. So if someone blasts me for being wrong on that, I apologize. But I actually had a scout telling me that. So it's exciting for those guys. They know that they're getting wear the big league uniform and be in the stadium and there's fans and good competition and meet new players. So the fall is a really exciting time.
Yeah, we'll get that figured out. I have like a whole crew of fact checker. No, I'm just kidding. It's just me in here. No, I won't do that to you. But I trust you. I trust your word. It does sound actually right. And do you know the selection process behind guys that pick to go into the Fall League? Because I know before a lot of high profile guys end up playing down there. Is it guys that need extra work, maybe battled through injuries, who didn't pitch enough innings during the regular season, didn't get enough at bats? What, from your interpretation, is how guys get selected to play in the Fall League?
I think it's a lot of different factors. I think one is, like you said, injury. Guys get hurt. They're going to need some more time. They need some more innings or need more at bats. They send them in. Some is just kind of a prospect status. They're wanting to get their prospects more at bats, more innings, see where they're stacking up, how they look. A lot of it is protection year guys. Guys that are going to be 40-man eligible that following winter. So they're sending them out there to help make a decision on protecting them or not. So a lot of different facets, a lot of different ideas on why teams send certain guys to the Fall League. I always tell my guys, in my opinion, it's never a bad thing to go to the Fall League.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. More baseball. What's the bad thing about more baseball, especially if there's a chance you could get claimed in that Rule 5 draft and you end up on a big roster come opening day. So
and the only time you really don't, guys that have good years that don't go is starting pitchers, just because they're maxed out on innings. So it's kind of they threw 110 innings, really don't need any more work or so. So you get to see a lot of the relievers or starters that miss time, and then obviously hitters. Hitters aren't as regimented as pitchers are. So getting to see a lot of different guys do different things out there, which is always fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tucker, let's get into your career just a little bit. First off, you're an Alabama guy.
Oh yeah.
You went to high school and college in Mobile, and your dad is,
Yep.
of course, you kind of mentioned it, former big league outfielder Turner Ward, who's also now a hitting coach in the big leagues. And you were born kind of a few years into his big league career. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Alabama and kind of beginning that love affair of baseball.
Man, it's well, one, you won't meet a bigger state of Alabama fan than me. I love it. I live in Nashville now, not in Mobile anymore. Go back every chance I get. Love it down there. The road I grew up on, the house my mom grew up in is like 2 miles away from it, and the house my dad grew up in is like 4 miles away from it. So close, tight knit family down there. But I was fortunate enough, growing up, I traveled a ton. My dad, got drafted in 1986, made his debut, I believe it was in '89. And then I was born in 92, and he played all the way to 2001. So, the first 8 years of my life, I'd be in Mobile and I'd go to school during the off season. But then during the season, I was living in Pittsburgh, or Arizona or Philly or Milwaukee, Toronto, wherever he was playing at the time. So kind of grew up traveling around, getting to, spend my baseball seasons following him around and getting to go to the field with him and just kind of, learning the business of baseball. I'll never forget, I was 7 years old, 6 years old, one of my earliest memories. I think it's kind of what promoted me to being an agent. My dad was playing in Pittsburgh, and one of the players came in, with this big fake check, and he was all celebrating, and I didn't understand what it was, and I remember asking my dad, I'm like, hey man, like, why'd you got the big fake check, and why are you so happy about it? And he was like, he just won his arbitration case. And so, I was like, well, what's that? And then, I remember that early in my life and mentioned arbitration. I don't remember how he explained it to me a long time ago, but I just remember the word arbitration. And then, that was at 6, 7 years old. Then you fast forward, 20 years later, 25 years later, and I'm 31. And it's like, now I understand what arbitration is and why he was so excited. So no, it's great, great growing up down there, great growing up in professional baseball. Got to go to high school there, college there. Fortunate enough to get drafted by the Diamondbacks. Played, a short stint with Arizona. Got to play professionally. But even when I was playing, my backup plan was always to get in the agency game per se, right? Whether I played for 2 years professionally or 25 years, I wanted to be an agent after. I like the relationship side of it. I like to help guys along the process. Obviously I grew up in it. My dad played professionally for 16 years. Been coaching I think for 15 or 16. It's been a long time. So when I tell people he was drafted in '86, he's still coaching to this day. I've legitimately dealt with this stuff my entire life. I've been around it. So, it's exciting, especially even kind of a full circle moment. 6 years ago and 2 years ago when my dad got the hitting coach job in Cincinnati and being able to help him with his contract and do his deal and all that stuff. And then going to St. Louis 2 years ago and helping with that deal, So it's kind of a full circle moment of getting the, where we started and now where we're at now, where I'm on the business side. He's still, on the coaching side, but being able to work with my dad has been a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, without that, you guys both doing a great job. And your pops played it with 6 big league organizations. And you mentioned the travel, and you mentioned, probably getting to see a lot of cool places that other kids your age wouldn't get to see. But there was also the other aspect, the flip side of him kind of maybe being away for a lot of the time. Did that kind of affect you at all, being away in the travel that he had to endure as you were coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it always, especially high school, right? Like it's kind of everyone, knew who my dad was in our, hometown, like baseball, played in the big leagues, coach. And I think maybe 3 times my dad saw me play in high school. It wasn't very much, but, still talking to me and my dad have a great relationship. I talk to him every day. We talk about games and all that stuff. But the one part I do remember, my professional debut, in rookie ball, I actually versed the Giants. I was with Arizona. It was versus the Giants. My rookie ball debut was that's back when the draft was in June, not July, how it is now. But my professional debut was at the Giants' old complex, not Papago. I don't remember the name of the old one, but you know what I'm talking about. You've probably been to it. I made my professional debut that day on Father's Day and my dad just happened to have a off day and be in Arizona, so he was actually there for my professional debut. So that playing memory, that's probably my best one. The debut, getting the I think I gave up a double to the left-handed hitter, which that probably wasn't great, but got a strikeout, but my dad got to be there for my debut, so that was kind of like it was like, hey, it's okay, he missed all of it. He got to be in my pro debut, like that was special.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And have you seen Papago, by the way? Like, geez,
Oh, unbelievable,
that's insane. That's
unbelievable,
probably better than most like big league like complexes.
dude. It's crazy. We Bryce Eldridge did a pre-draft workout there
Yeah.
before the draft. We went out there. I went with him and all that, everything. And we got a tour of it and checked it all out. And the indoor, man, they didn't miss a beat on that place. It's unbelievable.
It's insane. Yeah,
Yeah,
all the amenities there. You mentioned the pressure of kind of being like a son of a big leaguer and being a hometown kid and kind of everybody knowing the name. Uh, did that, were those lofty expectations, like, was that too much to bear at times, or did you kind of get used to it after a while?
no, you kind of get used to it, right? It's all mindset, right? Like the old quote, "Pressure makes diamonds." If
Yeah.
you don't want pressure, stay cold. But so there were, and it was kind of there was. I was probably the reality of it. I probably at times when I was younger put more pressure on myself than there actually was. But I don't think it was too. I'm glad I went through it first because I have a little brother. My little brother's freshman in college, plays at Northwest Florida State. Going through his like whole travel ball circuit in high school, like being able to like I've lived it. I know the expectations and all that stuff. And you meet my dad, and he's not like the hardo dad that's making you do this or that. Like he's just a good dude, chill dude, like help you any way he can. So it's not like it was ever forced from him or anything like that as well. And then luckily my mom was always there for all of us, right? She was fortunate enough for my dad coaching, she could be a stay-at-home mom. So she never missed a game, never missed anything like that. So having the support system of her, that was always a big part of it too. Like even when you had a bad game or whatever, it's like you get in the car, it's like, all right, well at least mom's here, So it was she was a big part of that. So I wouldn't say the pressure was too bad or anything like that.
Yeah, I just watched a video on Twitter about this kid was taking BP with his dad, and the dad was like, "We're going home because you can't hit." And I was like, "Jesus!" Like
Yeah.
the kid was like 7 years old, so good to know that that was not Turner Ward as a
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's good. Yeah. So drafted twice by the Diamondbacks, and
Yep.
a good thing that one thing that I do on this show is I always ask people for their draft stories, and some are different. Some people watch it on MLB Network, right? Some
Yep.
people are drafted in the later rounds to the point where they get a text or a phone call, or they just simply see their name pop up on a screen. So during both those moments, kind of fill me in on where you were when you got, I guess, notified that you were drafted twice.
Yep. So the high school was a little bit different. I actually thought I was going to go to the Cubs in high school. That's who I was kind of talking to the most and all that stuff. I did. I think they might still do it. It was called the Goodwill Series. It was like a Team USA versus Australia and Japan. It was played in Australia back then. That was like one of the pre-draft circuit things. Dante Bichette Jr. We were teammates there, and Dante Bichette was one of the coaches. Name you may remember. Bo Bichette's doing pretty good right now. I remember Bo being there, and he was like 5-6 years younger than all of us. But he hit BP with us, and he had pop then. At 12 years old or whatever it was. It was
Did he have
wild.
the hair?
But oh yeah. So but the high school draft, it was kind of it was nerve wracking. I knew I'd go later because back then there were no slots. It was I was committed to a junior college, so there was a whole that's draft and follow is back now, but that's when draft and follow was bigger and they could keep rights and all that stuff. And so, Diamondbacks ended up taking me. I remember my dad telling me I wasn't ready to sign. I had to go to college, and at the time that was devastating. Looking back, no, I probably wasn't ready. But so that was kind of, it is a stressful time. It's the most stressful time for every family when you go through it. And then college wise, I kind of knew it would be late. I had some injury stuff, had like a partial tear in my UCL and all this stuff. So I knew there'd be a chance to go late. In my college draft, my second draft, I was actually fishing when I got the call. I was at one of the lakes, I was doing a little bass fishing, got a call, and said they were going to take me, and I was like, oh, this is great. So good call to get when you're fishing. But the college one wasn't as stressful because kind of been through it once already. But high school, it's tough, man. Like you got a lot of decisions to make. You got different people giving you different ideas. A lot of people telling you what they think you should do, and you don't know what you should do. But I'm lucky enough, my how my dad handled my draft prospect or my draft, the whole process in high school is a lot different than I do it now as an agent. Like he was like, oh, just ask for this, and if you get it, great. If you don't. It's like there was no. I always tell my dad, I was like, I'm glad you're a hitting coach because you wouldn't be a good agent. So that's always a good joke we have. And so, but yeah, it is a stressful time. But as long as you have the information, you're prepared. It can be a smooth process.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you mentioned something really important that I talk a lot about, and a lot of people that come on are big advocates for it. You mentioned that you had interest in like the junior college part of it, and I
Yeah.
find great value in going to junior college, NAIA.
Yep.
A lot of players do it, and I feel like it's kind of overshadowed by the big, sexy 4-year universities. But a lot of people don't understand that it's best to go where you're going to play. And if you're going to go to a
Yes.
4-year school and you're going to sit the first 2 years, what good is it? So how
Yep.
important is junior college? And I guess you could answer that from an agent standpoint too, also as a player standpoint, because
Yeah.
I find some great value. It's kind of underrated in a lot of ways.
No, it is. I mean, I went to junior college for a year. My little brother's in junior college. My dad went to junior college. Junior, you got to go play, right? Especially now. It's with the transfer portal. It's not, you could go to a 4-year school and think you're going to, play as a freshman. All of a sudden, they bring in a 22-year-old from a different conference that can come in and take a spot. Like that happens. I mean, is junior college for everybody? No. I mean, 4 years are great too. But there are scenarios where junior college is the best bet. You go, you play, you got a younger class, as especially, as an agent, I'm a big junior college fan. Jake Madden, a year and a half ago, he went to Northwest Florida. He was a 4th rounder, signed for $1 million, double slot. Like, now he's a top prospect with Colorado. He got traded from Anaheim to Colorado. Beck Way left a 4-year school, went to junior college for a year, like, signed in the 5th round for, $600,000. Guys are going down there and making some, good money in the draft, but they're also going to play. One thing about junior college is there's no rules for practice, right? Like NCAA has rules for Division I, Division II. With junior college, they have the whole fall season. Like, my little brother, I think they've played 9 games already this fall.
Yeah.
And it's not even halfway through October. So they got a lot more to play. So the junior college is good. It's, you go, you can get more reps, get more practice time. But I always tell guys, if you're going to go junior college, like you got to have discipline, right? Because it's like you're going to have long practice days. You still got to be able to go get your extra work in. But there's so many great junior colleges out there. And, I know a lot of the coaches and stuff, all great guys. And they're, I think junior college helps prepare you for the minor league season because it is a grind. It's long bus rides. Like, you're getting your McDonald's instead of the Chipotle catering or whatever, getting your meal on the bus and hitting the road or whatever. So it does, it's the JUCO bandit scene, right? Like, teaches guys how to grind and get after it. And it does prep them for the minor league life because it's a hard life. Minor league baseball is very tough.
Yeah, no doubt. There's been a few JUCO bandits on here before, so love
There
to
we
hear
go.
that. And especially since, like, I mean, if you go to junior college, the turnover at a school like Stanford, like you're not going to transfer into Stanford. Those guys, for the most part, are the same all
Yep.
4 years, but you're going to play. Like, I feel like that's just so undervalued, the fact that you're going to play it. And honestly, if I see a guy, like if I go and watch like a 4-year school, 4-year university, like I could identify like that guy probably went to junior college. Like there's just something about the grittiness of guys. You can kind of point it out easily. And since you obviously your career's over, you became a certified MLB PA agent. You kind of referred to it earlier as something that was always in the back of your mind, with the relationships, with the desire to kind of advise different players. I guess why was it a calling? I guess a deeper answer. Why was it a calling to join the business side of the sport?
Oh, well, I think I saw the team side for so long, right? With my dad playing and coaching and me playing and the front offices. And I one thing is a player in the minor league, like, there's always questions you have and you don't know how to ask them or who to ask them to because you don't want to seem like that guy. And so that was kind of always a difficult thing too. Like, man, like, where am I going or what's why am I going to this level, not that level? When do I get to go home for rehab, from rehab, if I'm injured for the off season? There's so many questions. And so guys with good agents can get those questions answered pretty quick, right? I'm a relationship guy. I like dealing with the contract side, the business side, just as much as I do when my guys get engaged, and them showing me the rings they're going to pick out, or when they get married and going to their weddings, or being a part of their life, kind of dealing with tribulations too. When they do go through injury, helping them find maybe a second opinion doctor they need to use, or helping them with whatever hardship may come, and just kind of helping them be a voice of reason, or just someone in their corner at all times. I just really appreciate the relationship part.
Mhm.
So that was what drove me to the agency business.
Do you feel like I'm sure you feel like you have a leg up and kind of an advantage being a former professional player. I mean, that has to help. And you played the sport like not too long ago, very recently. You're young, right? I mean,
Yep.
you have a lot of people who are coming up through the minor leagues and through college probably have more of a desire to connect with like a younger agent, I'd assume. How much does the
Yep.
playing experience kind of separate you from other agents?
Well, I think it helps a bunch, right? Because I've lived it. I've been there. It's you mentioned earlier about my facilities and stuff, right? The training institutes. And so one thing I tell guys, especially with pitchers, it's the players earn every dollar they make in this game. It's not some slick negotiating tactic that I use, or my job is to make sure they don't take a bad deal. They earn their money. So I tell guys as a former player, it's like, hey man, if you're 92, 94 with a good slider, right? Command the strike zone, and you're worth X amount. If you're 96, 98 with a good breaking ball, your value's more, right? So it's kind of, if you play better, if you pitch better, hit better, you're going to make more money. And so that's kind of where the development side, my development background comes in. I tell pitchers all the time, hey, with the facility guys we train, we're averaging 3.7 miles per hour over a 3-month training block. If you can just stick to our average and we can get you, from 94 to 97, 98, that's going to create value. So I'm big on the development side, the training side, and also the one part with the company and the agency is, I do have the playing background, the development background, all that stuff. But also I have a guy named Anthony Aloisi. He was in analytics with Seattle for I think 4 or 5 years, and he was a scout with Oakland. And so he brings that whole more team front office side, the scouting, the analytics, the algorithms. So it's kind of, we've got the former player and we've got the former, team analyst side. So it's kind of the two sides that normally don't get along. We kind of brought in together to where we can figure out what's this guy's value, how's it going to look from the team side, what's the computer say. Obviously with me, playing and then in the agency business for 7 years now, the empirical decision making ability, got to have that too. So kind of got a good mix of all, like the former player side, development, helping guys get better between the lines. I think a lot of agenting is done outside the lines, but development, we can help them with development. It's going to make them better between the lines. I'm big on that. Like how can we help you between the lines? Because that's what really produces your value. So long answer to your question, but yeah, I think the former player part helps. Being there, lived it, knowing how to train, throwing programs in the off season, knowing when to start, what's too early, what's too late. So I think it does help.
And I guess also trying to build up like a clientele, and for those that maybe want to do anything in sports in terms of the business side of being an agent, what would be your advice to, for them to kind of build a clientele? How did you do it? Who are the type of players that you're kind of eyeing? How do you find that relationship and how do you build it?
Yeah, well, so my first 5 years in the business, I worked at Beverly Hills Sports Council, out in LA. Danny Horowitz, owns Beverly Hills. I can't say enough good things about him. Danny was not only a great boss, but just a great mentor, great friend. Still talk to him to this day. But so being able to learn from a guy like that who's done it for a long time. I think he's been in the agency game since he was 19 years old, something like that. So knowing being able to learn from a guy like that was really helpful, right? Learn from one of the pioneers of the business. I think he's one of the best agents out there. I think that's probably bad business on my end, right? Boosting another agent over me, but as much as he helped me, as much as I learned from him, learned the business, all that stuff, I'll never be able to say enough good things about him. So being able to learn from him. One thing, you got to build your network, right? You got to be places. You got to grind in this business. You got to, scouts know who the players are and where there's at. So being able to, meet scouts and, the cross checkers and front office guys and directors, all this stuff, and being able to ask them like, hey man, I think about going after this guy. What do you think? So you kind of got to have an eye for the talent too. Like we have a whole scouting department within the agency where we got guys going to identify and find this guy, all across the country and all this stuff. So really, you got to have an eye for it. The model of the objectives of the business are pretty simple. Like you want to find the really good players, right? Like so going to the perfect game events or PBR events for the draft, going to the fall league for pro stuff or spring training or low A, high A games, all that stuff. So that's kind of the way to do it. You just got to get out there and go find guys.
And I'm just gonna shoot as many random agent questions as I possibly can because maybe by the end of this, I'm gonna like consider another career. No. What's the pitch? So when you have when you go to these perfect game events, what's the pitch that you give them? Is it, how do you persuade them or convince them that you're the most helpful person for the job? Because I'm sure a lot of them have maybe other interest as well from other agencies. So what would be your pitch?
Well, I tell guys all the time, it's all about the fit. I'm not gonna, pretend I'm the best guy for everybody, right? It's more I'm more of a nuts and bolts guy, not a bells and whistles guy, right? I like the fact I'm, attention to detail with the contract and everything that's negotiable into that. If it's like, if it's more about the courtside seats to the Lakers game, like that's not me as much, right? So, more about the facts, nuts and bolts, the relationship, being, data driven. We use a lot of data, algorithms, all that stuff. But so the relationship part, and then also the development. The company, is 2 years old. It's like we had 2 guys make their debuts this year. Last year for the first draft for 22, headlined by guys like Blade Tidwell. Blade's a good story, right? He was the 52nd pick overall. I think slot was 1.35 million or something like that. He signed for 1.85, right? But with Blade, it was interesting because he got hurt. He had some like a shoulder impingement in the fall of his sophomore year. He was draft eligible sophomore, so not a junior draft. Got drafted as a draft eligible sophomore, but hurt his shoulder. Thought he was going to miss the season. We ended up getting him with Dr. Krimchek up in Ohio. Got a second opinion. Got him on a return to throw program, and he came back towards the end of the season. And Blade only threw 36 innings that year. And so, you do some simple math, he signed for $1.85 million, only threw 36 innings or 39 innings, around $49,000 per inning pitched in college. He got paid. So, like, that's a good deal. Who we talking going back to the JUCO route thing. Jake Madden, was a 4th rounder. Slot was like 490 grand. He signed for $1 million. Like we knew his value. We stuck to it. Jake wanted $1 million. He, he had offers for 875 and 950 and 925, and he stuck to his guns at $1 million. And then, the trust factor that me and him had when I told him to turn down, $950,000 because it wasn't $1 million, he was able to do that. And then we got our million, ended up getting $1 million in the 4th round. Had to wait an extra day, but it happens. But guys like that, Bryce Eldridge this year, 16th overall pick, the American Ohtani, 2-way player. One thing people forget about Bryce is his sophomore summer, he really struggled as a hitter. I want to say he had, 2 or 3 hits all summer. Like he struggled. And then, but going into East Coast Pro that year, they wanted to come, as just a PO. That's kind of when the whole PO thing started. Oh, he's just a pitcher. And, I'd never believed that. I thought he was a 2-way, knew he could hit. It's athletic. It's a, pretty left-handed swing. He doesn't strike out much, plus power, all that stuff. And so kind of just being able to have him stick to his guns. No, man, you're not a PO. You're going to hit. If they want you to come as a PO, we just won't play for that team or whatever, right? So being able to, we're going to stick to our ideals and our beliefs in our company, right? Like, we're going to do what's best for the player every single time. For Bryce, I knew it was a 2-way thing. I knew he needed a 2-way. He wasn't just an arm. So sticking to the 2-way, him, even when he was struggling that sophomore summer and being able to still just keep working in the cage and keep getting better, where, a year and a half later, he's the MVP of Team USA and hitting the homers and, all that stuff. So part of our pitch is like, we're going to believe in you. We're going to do everything we possibly can. So I wouldn't say there's a pitch per se. We just try to be real people and show what we've done in the past, show the deals we've done and everything like that. And then if it's a good fit, then that's even better.
Well, now I know who to get Lakers tickets, courtside Lakers tickets from when I sign on as your only media guy in the agent. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, back to
Exactly.
Bryce because I'm intrigued with Bryce, and I know a lot of Giants people are intrigued with Bryce.
Yeah.
How did that relationship begin? How did you meet him? And I mean, how proud of you, whatever. How proud are you of him? They are the
Man,
other way around. Say you get it. You get it. Just
no,
how
no, no,
proud
I
are you
get
of
it.
Bryce? And he's somebody that is expected to be a fast riser through the Giants organization. And he was in San Jose Low A this year. Ended up doing a really good job down the stretch during their playoff run. So I mean, what's your expectations for Bryce in the future, and how did that relationship start?
Oh, so one thing I've learned on expectations for Bryce is don't set them because he will exceed them. It's kind of I mean, it's just true. He's that type of person. He's that type of player. Everything I thought he would be at 15. He's just ended up being better. It's kind of he's got the work ethic. He's got the moxie, the makeup. I can't say enough good things about Bryce. I met him when I saw him in high school, right? When he was, well, I think he's 228 now. Back then he was like 6'5", 170, right? Like, just a tall stick. But he was athletic. Like in high school, he's a good football player, safety, receiver, athletic. He was throwing hard for his age, not crazy hard. He was up to like, I think 94 or 93. It's not like he was throwing 100 that early, but that's hard for a 15-year-old, So he's kind of doing everything. But the thing that stuck out was when he pitched, it wasn't your typical young player that has the stuff and doesn't throw strikes. He always threw strikes, always had feel for a breaking ball. And then the hitting, he always had the power, and he just never really struck out. There's never like whether it was velo or a good breaking ball, like he was going to put the ball in play and make hard contact, and just kind of the confidence he has too. It's like he's super humble, but he's confident. He's not, he's there's a lot of meekness with Bryce, so kind of always knew that he was going to be good. So it was going through the whole high school process and committing to college. He committed to Alabama, his dream school, all that stuff. Like so, just couldn't be more happy for him.
Are you sure he's 18?
I know, get that question asked a lot. He's one of the. It's funny, I'm 6'6", 250 pounds, whatever. Like he's one of the few people that stand next to me. I'm kind of like looking up, like man, like I feel normal size, right? Like so, it's always funny. He's just a freak.
I wasn't working the day he came in and visited Oracle Park or anything, but everybody told me that he did not look 18. He just looked
Yeah.
way older, and it's definitely really cool that he's getting off to a fast start.
Yeah, especially as the mustache doesn't help the age look either when he's rocking the stash, right? Like that was always a battle. Like, hey man, like you should probably shave. He's like, nah, it gets me hits. I'm like, oh, if it gets you hits, keep it.
Yeah, hey,
So
whatever gets you hits, keep it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Um, Back to kind of the agent stuff, and I always feel like the financial aspect of it, is always the most complicated, and it would certainly keep me from doing it. So as someone with little to no financial literacy, I feel like I'd fall flat with any type of negotiation. So was it kind of an acquired taste trying to figure out how to get used to the numbers, or were you always kind of a number guy?
No, I've always been a numbers guy. It's kind of it's history repeats itself, right? Maybe not with Bryce because being the two-way player a little bit different. But this game's been played for so long. There's been so many players drafted and do deals and stuff. It's kind of you can find comps, right? There's going to be a guy that looks like your guy or was similar, or maybe your guy's a little bit better than. And most of the time there's going to be a guy that was better than your guy too, right? So it's kind of you can find that median. You find guys that were a little bit better, got this, a little bit less, got this. And so you kind of find that median, find the comps. And then one thing that I'm just so fortunate with is having, our Anthony with our analytics and everything where he sets his values based on just straight numbers and the algorithms and all that stuff. And then I'm more looking at, guys in the past I've seen or maybe deals I've done, kind of, kind of, a few different routes, right? I think can you hear me fine? My computer just said my speaker
Yep, I got you.
Is it good? Cool. So kind of using the different algorithms and everything like that. Oh, you want to say hey?
We got a visitor.
Oh, we do. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Sorry, Steven. She wants a little candy, I guess. So she will help you out right there. Can you wave? Can you wave? Yeah, you can sit right there, baby.
Is she one of your clients? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be my first LPGA athlete. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go for. So, oh yeah, but yeah, that's kind of my answer on the value part. Just kind of figuring out the That's coffee. Just give me a minute. I'm talking, and then I'll be glad to help you. There you go. But sorry about that, Steven. She's with me all the time. That's my vice president right there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the finance part, like I said, it's I've always just been super curious about players' values and contracts and everything like that. I've always just been super curious about it. So diving into it and finding values is fun for me. We kind of I like the I always kind of set my values in my head, what I think they'll be a year out, and then I do it 6 months out, then I do it 3 months out, and then I'll do it a week before the draft, and then I kind of see, be able to show, and I always sign it and date it on paper, so it's like that way when I show, because like I put Bryce at 3.5 in January of the draft year, and I was like, I think this is the bottom line, and I showed him that. So I think this is your worst case scenario, and you end up getting 4. So stuff like that. And I was closer. I was out for a week before, but being able to be 6 months out and showing him that, and who our comps were and everything like that, and what it looked like, kind of made the draft process easier for him too. Because I was like, hey, rainy day, worst case, this is it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And kind of more of the agent stuff here before we wrap up. I mean, let's say someone like really needs something and they call you. What's usually the need when they call, right? What's the most common call that you get? Is it just to chat about a game? Is it a necessity that's needed? Like, what's the most common call that you'll get?
So for pro guys, normally something broke, glove lace, shoe spike, right?
That was my next question.
Bats, like for pro guys, that's it. Or they're just calling chat. Hey, what's up, man? Everything like that. If it's hitters, they normally want to talk about ABs. They're like, hey, is Turner free? My dad's Turner. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure he is. Or pitchers, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about changing my grip on my breaking ball to get more horizontal. It's stuff like that, right? And then in the draft, it's more like, hey man, these 5 teams, text me today and want to set up a meeting, or these guys were at my game, or just kind of asking for info. I've kind of the way I run my business, my relationship with my guys is kind of just always open-ended communication. It's not like it ever stops or starts. It's like, some of them, will hit me up once a week and we'll kind of talk about whatever. Some's every couple of days. They're all just different. It's all, all just different how or when or what it is.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of like, hey, I want out. No.
No, not really.
That's like the very dramatic thing that you often like the worst case scenario that agents go through. Yeah, to the equipment, like how often do certain guys have like deals with certain sponsors? Like, is a guy only subjected to a Wilson glove or a Rawlings glove or A2000s? What's the equipment scene like?
Yeah, so it's kind of like you said. Some guys have deals. Most guys with us have deals, whether it's a glove deal or shoe deal or bat deal, whatever it may be. But they've all got different deals. They've all got if they don't have a deal, then we'll help them get it. Hey, look, I'm on the Zoom call. Yeah, you can use that.
Taking a picture of you.
She found my old GoPro in the garage.
Oh,
and so now she like videos the dog and videos whatever. So, but so most have deals. Get them deals, or in the agency itself we have discount codes with everybody and stuff. And then MLB regulates how much we can spend per player per year. Stuff like that. But most of the time they have exclusive deals like Wilson Rawlings. Whatever company, JL Glove Company is one of the up and coming glove companies I like a lot. Really good guys with Tyson over there and stuff like that. But so all different ways. Gears the ever evolving world.
Yeah, social media. You could just put out a start up something on social media and it could go viral. Like the 44 gloves I've seen on Instagram for years, and now
Yeah.
a lot of players are bringing those up to the big leagues. But
Yep.
if you break one of those deals, do they just drop you flat out? They like you get seen
They
wearing.
can, yeah, you can get terminated, yeah, all that stuff. But I've all my guys know how I am with our word, and sticking to our word. So I've fortunate enough, I've never had a guy break a deal.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like, what if like Steph Curry just wears Nike instead of Under Armour? What would happen?
Yeah,
But
I'm sure Steph would have a couple fines in there, a little termination pay or something like that. So
yeah, they wouldn't terminate him. I don't think they'd
yeah,
terminate him.
yeah,
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got for you, man. This was awesome, and I really appreciate you joining the show. And I think a lot of people out there who might want to go into the business side hopefully learned a lot, and people who are playing that maybe ultimately want to go into the business side, I think they learned a lot, and this was really awesome. And I really appreciate you hopping on the show.
yeah. No problem, man. I enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. And anybody want to listen to the podcast more and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, go ahead, do that at RizzoCast. Go check us out. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and enjoy the MLB playoffs. We'll be back with more, and see you next time.